When you start seeing the same problems appear over and over again in a digital product, whether they are usability issues, accessibility challenge, responsiveness problems, performance bottlenecks, or recurring technical fixes, it's worth taking a step back and asking whether those issues are truly independent problems or if they are symptoms of a larger system challenge. And that was exactly what happened to me working on a large e-commerce platform, where I realized those issues weren't isolated problems at all. They were symptoms of a larger front-end challenge that was affecting both the user experience and the team's ability to improve it over time. So from a user perspective, this created inconsistent experience. Some pages performed different than others. Accessibility improvements were difficult to implement consistently. Users were facing constant 404 errors across the pages, etc. Chaos. And from a team perspective, even small improvements often require heavy dependency on plugins, templates, which cause slowing down interaction and increasing complexity of management of the platform itself. So observing these patterns made me start asking a different question. So instead of fixing individual pages, how might we improve the system that create those pages? Hi, my name is Nayama. I'm a UX and product designer. And one lesson that I've learned is that UX problems are often system problems. So now let me go a little deeper in what was facing and what was my solution. So to begin with, redesigning screens, creating design systems was not solving the problems anymore. It helps a lot, of course, visual consistency, brand guidelines. Those things can truly help the digital product perform better. But what I mean is when recurring problems do not stop appearing, especially the same ones, the opportunity of improvement is larger than visual design. So the main question for resolve this full box of technical problems was how can we create a foundation that supports both user needs and business needs over time? So at that point, I wasn't just thinking about how to solve individual design problems. I was looking for a way to create a stronger thing that would make usability, accessibility, responsiveness, etc., blah, 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 performance improvements easier to achieve across the entire platform. And at the same time, I had to consider something very important, the needs of the business and the internal teams. And a complete platform migration would introduce significant cost, risk, training, and operational disruption. So teams were already comfortable with their existing workflows for managing content, the products, the orders, and promotions. I'm talking about the e-commerce here, okay? So replacing everything wasn't necessarily the best solution. And that led me to research modern front-end architectures and explore approaches that could provide greater flexibility for improving the user experience while preserving the backend system and workflows that the team already rely on. I researched solutions and I proposed a headless front-end approach using Next.js, Tailwind CSS, and Vercel while preserving the existing WordPress and WooCommerce backend. And for anyone who isn't familiar with these terms like Next.js, Tailwind, WooCommerce, etc., I'll include some simple non-technical explanations in the description below. And also, if you happen to have a developer friend, it's worth asking them about these technologies as well. They may have their own perspectives and can probably explain them even better than I can. Anyways, the headless proposal that I mentioned here mean that we are not going to replace everything, the whole platform, the whole system. Content teams could continue managing content in WordPress. So they can continue managing the products, orders, customers, and payments through the WooCommerce platform with a familiar workflow, And the front end and the back end, we would communicate through APIs such as REST API or GraphQL, allow each system to focus on what it does the best. Again, technical terms are explained on the description below. They are easier to understand than they look, I promise. Anyway, from a technical perspective, this is known as a headless architecture. And from a UX perspective, it's about creating more freedom to build better experiences. Now, why this change matters for the users? So the users don't care what technology powers a website. They care about the outcomes, like, can I find what I was looking for? Can I complete my task? Is accessible and easy to navigate in this website? A modern front-end creates more opportunities to improve these outcomes. It provides greater flexibility to create accessible experiences, responsive layouts, faster interactions, and more consistent user journeys. So instead of designing around technical constraints, teams can focus on designing around user needs. Accessibility becomes easier to implement, responsive behavior becomes easier to optimize, performance improvements become easier to achieve. So the result is a more intuitive, reliable, and inclusive experience. And now, why this matters for teams? So great UX isn't only about customers. It's also about the people responsible for building and maintaining and improving the product itself. So internal workflows are part of the system too, and they're extremely important. And a reason that I was excited about this approach was that this balanced innovation with practical system. So the teams could continue using a familiar workflow while gaining more flexibility on the front-end foundation. The existing backend remain in place, content management, product management, and day-to-day operations could continue without major disruptions. So at the same time, reduce the dependency on numerous plugins, templates. Also, this created a cleaner and more maintainable foundation for future improvements. So instead of spending time in technical limitations and workarounds, teams could focus in what really matters, like supporting business goals and delivering value to the customers. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and found that it helpful. For me, this project was a great reminder that sometimes the best solutions don't start with redesigning a page. They start with understanding the system behind it. Thanks for watching, and I see you next time. Bye.